On, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're joining us from. You're welcome back to our program Eyes on ONPASSIVE. My name is Aisha Ndanusa. Today we are back again with a very special and more exciting informative series where we always unfold ONPASSIVE artificial intelligence technology products, services, and opportunity to the world. Today, we have with us a very special guest, a dynamic man, very intelligent personality, Dr. John Ajongwen from USA. Good evening, sir. Thank you for joining us, sir.
Wow, good evening. Thank you for that introduction. And you make me like dynamic person, and I'm thinking, who are they talking about here?
Of course you are. Thank you. You're welcome to our program, sir.
You're welcome. Good evening to you.
Thank you. Of course, I'm not always alone. Today, I have with me Pastor 360 Degree from Abuja, Nigeria. Hello, Pastor 360 Degree. And also,
good evening, Madam Aisha. Good evening, Minister of Finance, and our one and only great guest in the house, Doc. Good evening, sir.
Thank you. Good evening.
Thank you, Pastor 360. And also, I have with me Mrs. Mary Ali from Abuja, Nigeria. Hello, Mary.
Hello, my sister Aisha. Thank you very much. I want to appreciate you too for the work we are doing. And at the same time, welcome our guest to today's show, Dr. John. We are happy to have you, sir. You're welcome, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, sir. And today, our topic for today is financial readiness. Want to know how ready are you to embrace this, I don't know how to put it, this amazing apple that will be falling to our path very soon. How ready are you? Well, let me not just say much. Our guest is going to tell us how ready are you. But before we start, I'll be calling on Pastor 360 Degree to tell us why we are always here every Wednesday. Pastor 360,
yeah.
Are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you very much. The name implies, ONPASSIVE is the only company that has all the eyes presently all over the world. All eyes are on ONPASSIVE, even as we talk now. And so therefore, with our passion and our movement previously to get our people involved, we just need to do all we can do to make sure that they get what they needed to get from ONPASSIVE as early as possible. So at this point, we are working seriously to make sure that an average families across Nigeria get the information about ONPASSIVE so that they will jump in on board early as resellers across the 774 local governments. And the only best way to do it is to continue like this every day, every week, every time. Because the more we go about these programs, the better it will be for us. And then today, for those families that are already in already, they need to be well informed and to be well equipped with the adequate knowledge of how to manage resources. That is why we bring professionals here tonight. Thank you, Madam Aisha.
Thank you very much, Pastor 360, for telling us why we are always here. Of course, we're always here to tell the world what ONPASSIVE have to offer. Mr. Dr. John, are you ready for us, sir?
Yes, I'm ready. If I can share my screen, if you can allow me share.
Yes, go ahead and share your screen, sir.
Right from the beginning.
Can you see my screen clearly?
Yes, sir. Yeah, we can see it.
Good. Good afternoon, good evening. And it's an opportunity for me to actually be able to have this discussion with the family and just share a couple of concepts. For those of us who are founders, we know that our lives are about to change in a really, really great way. And one of the things that we have been using these platforms that this beautiful team has set aside is to talk about financial readiness. And you ask yourself, why financial readiness? I hope that during this next few minutes, you understand some of the reasons why it is very important that we are ready in our minds financially before we actually start receiving all the wealth that this beautiful opportunity has in place for us. So without much ado, I'm going to go ahead and start. And I'm going to just share a couple of slides here, and then we can have a discussion. So the first question that I really want us to, if I can just get this out of my way, that I really want us to actually address is why financial readiness. As I mentioned, you know, we about at most 74 days away from the launch of ONPASSIVE, and from the beginning of our Change Lives Beyond Our Imagination. And so if we are not ready, we can be prepared, but if we are not ready, at least from getting the right mindset, we could end up doing the same mistakes that other people have done when they have come in contact with a lot of money. Before I actually dwell into that, the first thing that we're going to just make sure that people remember is that you have to be in the game to be able to play it. We all here are founders, but remember there is the next step. The next step is opening your ONPASSIVE mega mall to the world, which means you have to be able to activate your account. And as we have been told by our CEO on a number of occasions, we have the option of either taking a business name that ONPASSIVE is going to suggest to us, or if you have your own business name that you want to brand yourself, you can actually use that business name itself. And then we have to also remember that while this money will be coming and you'll be in the ONPASSIVE ecosystem, you would need to be able to get those funds out into your bank accounts. And there are some basic requirements that we will need to be made aware of. Those, again, will be fully clarified to us. For people who have multiple accounts, one of the basic requirements is that you may not necessarily need to do a KYC on each account, because you can link your accounts and only do the KYC on the one that is linked to your bank. But whatever you do, please just make sure that your account is safeguarded. A lot of people would be coming and trying to break into your accounts. Again, think about it. I remember one of our great leaders, Mr. Michael Williams, said, consider this business as a $1 million check that has been written and given to you. So you want to make sure that you take care of that check and you safeguard it and deposit it in a safe location. That is the same thing with your ONPASSIVE account. But for today, I really want to talk about the financial readiness. And we have had a couple of sessions on financial readiness that have have provided to different audiences. My hope is that the focus today will really be on things that are relevant to the community that this platform is serving. Because some of the ideas that have been shared in the past have sort of been general, and I may throw one or two specific examples. Before we get to that, why is it important for us to get our mindsets, financial mindsets, ready? I shared this before, but let me just go through this and try to paint a picture so that we start seeing what can go wrong. We have a situation here, and I'm going to share two examples of a gentleman. It's well publicized, who won a huge amount of money, 315 million US dollars. I mean, if you want to convert it to Naira, you can go multiplying and you see that's like trillions of Naira in a lottery, and ended up basically dying 5 years after or became broke 5 years after winning this amount of money. And you wonder to yourself, how stupid can someone be? Basically, they did things that many of us would do. For example, at the very beginning, this individual actually went out there and he used a large portion of those funds for what we call charitable purposes. Yes, our CEO has been telling us about this idea of Mother Teresa and how we can replicate and become multiple Mother Teresas. We can go and just take a certain percentage and drop it to our church, our mosque, or to any charity and hope that we've done something good. In this guy's example, he donated 10% of his winnings to his charity. And he put another 14 million to a foundation that provides food and clothing to struggling families here in the United States. Those were great things that he did. And those are the type of things that we would be encouraged to do. But as we discuss a bit further, how we do it is going to be very important. Now, after doing that, he went the way that most of us are really dreaming and thinking about doing. Go buy yourself some flashy car. He bought a Lamborghini and drove it around the neighborhood, you know, throwing cash to everybody. And you could imagine how everybody thought about him as a superhero. And this one where they talked about it, just 3 years later, this guy went around carrying $500,000 US dollars in a suitcase to a casino, to a strip club, not even some bank or so. And somebody helped themselves to that money. $500,000 US, I mean, you can think of how many millions or billions of naira that this guy was carrying around. Why on earth he would do that, we don't understand. And then as he was going out very recklessly spending, he ended up with a $1.5 million bounce check at the Atlantic City, which is one of the gambling headquarters in this world. Basically, can you imagine that in 5 years, this guy had squandered over $100 million, literally $20 million or close to $2 million every day that he was squandering. If we are not prepared, this is not the only person that this would happen to. So what we're trying to do here is to get our mindsets ready so that we don't make this mistake. We'll come to this other, literally a tragic incident. Again, this individual, 2001, got 27 million, not as much as the first person. And he started off very well because, you know, he hired a lawyer, he hired some financial advisors to help him, and he dedicated some part of that money to be, you know, investing. But unfortunately, within a short space of time, you know, indiscipline crept in, and he went, started buying fiber optics, buying limo companies, literally $4.5 million wasted on race horses. And before he knew it, you know, $12 million was gone in the first year. You know, and then what did he do? He went and bought himself some nice 6,000 square foot mansions, you know, $1.6 million. He bought expensive cars, Lamborghinis, again, you're coming in there. And he got himself a Hummer golf cart for the daughter. I mean, just think about it. A golf cart is, you're not even talking about the Hummer vehicle itself, but just the golf cart for I guess, to be driving around his mansion. That's like a 50 million naira or something like that for a golf cart. Bought himself a private jet. And long and short of the story, if you go all the way to the bottom, he became a drug addict and ended up in a hospice. And almost literally 12 years after getting this money, this guy was gone. $27 million spent in 12 years, again, about $2 million that he was burning every year. You can see some of the things he bought, like a $159,000 ring, $30,000 plasma TV. I mean, some of those vanity type things that he went out and got, or a gold watch for $78,000. Why do these type of things happen to every average people? because they lack the basic financial literacy and mindset to make the right decisions about money. And it has been proven over and over that the #1 cause of poverty in the world is not just that people do not have money, but is that they make bad financial decisions. So I just wanted to throw these examples to tell us that our financial blueprints, they are shaped by a couple of factors. And if we understand these factors and we're able to really apply them, then we are placing ourselves on the right path when ONPASSIVE comes. So the first thing that we want to think about is we have all been brought up to have some sort of ideas about what money is supposed to do or what money does for people. Those ideas may be created based on what we see from Nollywood or from all the movie stars or all the stars that we see bombarded with every day. They may be from stories that our families, our friends, our neighbors, our teachers, or people that have been instrumental in our lives have told us about money. If we know that money is the root of all evil, and then there's a chance that you always see money as evil. If you see money as the way to be able to suppress other people or to elevate yourself to a higher point and stand on top of everybody's head, and then that programming will create some thoughts in your mind, and those thoughts will, start building some sort of feelings inside of you. And whenever you have some feelings and you have the means, what that's going to do is going to lead you to some actions, and those actions obviously generate results. So what we need to do right now is to start thinking about reprogramming our minds about what we think, how we think about money. Specifically with the ONPASSIVE money that is going to come along, if we think of it as a means to uplift humanity, then that programming will really start creating thoughts in our minds. What does it mean when I want to uplift humanity? Starting with myself, my family, my environment, and so on. How do you feel about doing all these things, and what are some of the actions that you're going to take? This is going to completely drive a different action to if you think that ONPASSIVE is going to be just that limitless source of money that I can just splash and carry all the blings and all the latest suits and so on. That type of programming will lead you to a different action. But the one thing that I want to really focus on is we have been told over and over that those of us who are in ONPASSIVE are going to make it and we're going to be rich. But what I want us to do is use ONPASSIVE to be wealthy. I don't want any of us to be rich. I want us to be wealthy. So if you look at the difference between a rich person and a wealthy person is how their wealth is sustained. While a rich person might only have their money for a short period of time, the wealthy person has amassed enough assets that they no longer worry about money. So what we want to do is to be able to use this as a vehicle to create a long-lasting legacy for our communities, for our families, for ourselves. I love the little picture on the right-hand side, which shows the difference between a rich person and a wealthy person. This was really illustrated by a book that they call The Millionaire Next Door. You can see these two guys here. One of them has like a fur jacket for $800, some jeans for $200, the boots for $400. So you add up, you can see, yep, this guy looks like richly dressed. The other person has got like a $25 sweater, $45 trousers, $40 shoes. He still looks neat and dressed. But look at their wealth. look at how much they have as net worth. One person is in the negative by $15,000, and the other person has $1.2 million of worth. I am not saying that once we get into ONPASSIVE, all of us should just be going around like paupers, but we're saying there that we need to get the wealth mindset, because whatever each and every one of us wants to do, whether it's a charity, whether it's some school you want to set up, or whatever you want to do, you want to make sure that it is a sustainable thing. And I'm going to touch on this again. But before we get to that, I just want to throw a couple of mindsets again here. The first one is that the number one reason why most people don't get what they want is because they don't know what they want. The reason we don't get what we want is because we don't know what we want. And it's this book up here, The Secrets to the Millionaire Mindset. We talked about it. And the other thing is the idea of managing money. And, you know, we're just making a joke before this session started, how, you know, when we talk to some kids about unpassive money that is going to be bringing us wealth, the answer that the kid gave was, then I don't need to go to school because I don't really care. I don't need to know how to manage the money. The money is going to always be coming. So why care about managing it if it's going to be there anyway? But if you look at all the people that have been able to manage and create wealth, they understand the basics of managing money. And that is something which I want us to be able to really focus on. Let's look at the first statement which I made mention of, that I said the reason why a lot of people make the bad decisions is because they don't know what they want. And I'm going to just, this presentation is just going to focus on this particular aspect. And why I'm talking about it is because many of us, we struggle to understand the difference between an asset and a liability. So we end up putting our monies in liabilities, thinking that we're putting that money in assets. And I just want to take this few minutes to just share with us that if we understand what assets are and how the wealthy use these assets to build wealth, then when ONPASSIVE starts putting us in that right area, we would be able to differentiate between these two things and make better decisions for ourselves. Just from a definition point of view, I would just say that an asset is something that pays you or puts money in your pocket, and a liability is something that takes money out of your pocket. And the way I normally say it is, if I am here and I'm employed and I'm getting a monthly salary, if at the end of a particular month, I do not have any income coming in, can I get money from something? If not, then by definition, that item is an asset. So let's look at some things that many of us could be tempted to just go out there and throw our monies in terms of assets and liabilities. This deck that I put in, we have things like stocks, you go invest it, and then it's paying you dividends, or you set up businesses or rental property that is going to be generating income for you. Obviously, if you build a good property that is in a good location, that's going to be providing ongoing income as long as it's not taking more in terms of the management costs. But when it comes to us and we start looking at people, we're looking at it from our communities. What are some of the assets that we should be thinking about? I'm actually looking at things like farming. I'm thinking about things like community cooperatives. I think my wife sort of really made a trip to Nigeria lately. And when she came back, one of the comments she made was the idea, just the observation that there is so much fertile and empty land, especially in the Benue area. And if you imagine there, how if somebody could actually go out there now, most of our communities, we are still into importing a lot of stuff, but we have a lot of fertile land that we can transform some of this into farmlands, and you work with the local communities, help them with what they need to be able to produce so that they are self-sufficient, they start generating some income for themselves. Then that becomes a way that we would have uplifted that community. When it comes to thinking about it on the other side of liabilities, obviously the standard ones are things like your car, your home, the boats, the private jets and TVs, and hey, for us Africans, you know, making trips to places like New York, Dubai, London, that's like one of the things that people will want to go see how they can go spend their time in some of those 6-star hotels in Dubai. But what I mean, as a business person in ONPASSIVE, you would be able to actually go out there for business trips, and that could be as an item that can be expensed, but let this not become one of the things that we spend our lives doing. We forget that we don't have hospitals in our areas, and now even you have a small headache, you have to fly to London or New York for fever, when we can actually help invest in hospitals or health centers in our villages. And then you start getting like what you're seeing even on social media now. You know, I become so rich, and I keep thinking, okay, now, you know, instead of just being happy with my one lovely wife, maybe I just go get a second wife or a second girlfriend out there because there is money. Those are not the mindsets that those of us in ONPASSIVE should be looking towards building for ourselves. We should be looking at things that are going to help transform us, transform our communities the way that our CEO has actually intended that we do. I'll just flash very quickly some of the things on liabilities, you know, expensive clothing, recreational vehicles, jewelry. I mean, you have your wedding rings and so on, but some people use some of the jewelry as investments. That's fine. But if you see somebody just going out there getting 100 million, or like we saw $78,000 ring just because they want to show off, well, that's not the best thing. For assets, you can see the real estate land, especially for us back home. That's a big thing for me. If we can get it, things that are less common, which I think many of us, and I was glad when I was talking with one of our sisters, Sister Aisha, and she talked about the life insurance industry in Nigeria is much developed than in other African countries. Those of us in ONPASSIVE who have access to these vehicles, you know, let's talk about this, because this is where the wealthy actually put their money. And I'm not talking about the life insurance that you're waiting for somebody to close their eyes and you benefit. So moving fast, what I want us to be thinking is that ONPASSIVE is going to give us income, either as commissions or whatever. Income is going to, ONPASSIVE is going to give us income. What we need to do is to be able, because income is not equal to money, it's not equal to wealth. When you take your income and you subtract your lifestyle, and what is left is a savings. Now, where you put that saving will actually result in some gain or loss, depending on where you put it. You may be expected to pay some taxes, and in some cases, you may need time for that investment or for that saving to grow. But if we are forward thinking and we pick the right vehicles, then, and we maintain a reasonable lifestyle, we have to upgrade our lifestyles, but we don't want to upgrade our lifestyles past like even some of the trillionaires that exist in this world. If we can model some of them, you see they go them around very, very, not casual, but formally, smartly dressed. But for us, especially most of us from Africa, when we get money, the way that we just go now, we may end up going and buying one of these branded places to be producing only our own brand. That is not really the mindset we should be having when we want to create wealth. And when it comes to the idea of creating wealth, there are a few elements that need to be considered so that you can create and sustain the wealth. How do you make sure that when you put your money, that money can grow? How do you make sure that where you're putting your money, it's safe and it's not gonna, you're not gonna lose that money either because of a downturn in market or even you that is producing the money not being there? And more importantly, how do we create some sort of a legacy so that whatever wealth we build ends up where we want it to be? I've been sharing with some people about the idea that if we can just set up either a fund where you fund it with a lump sum and it's generating almost like a salary to help somebody on an ongoing basis, it may actually be much better than if you went ahead and just gave that person $1 million, because they may not know how to actually treat that money or handle it well. So when we are out there looking, first thing we need to think about is that those of us in ONPASSIVE, most of us are coming in from the mindset of an employee who has been working and somebody pays us. We are now going to run our own businesses. And when we run our own businesses, we need to also understand how the rich people spend their money and grow it. So this sketch I actually got from a book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I think you guys heard about it. But what it talks about is how the poor, how the middle income, and how the wealthy, how they actually spend their money, which is their income, expenses, and where they put it, whether it's in assets or liabilities. So let's just quickly look at this little hand sketch here. Those of us who basically broke, we tend to live about 3 or 4 months ahead of schedule. So before the income comes, you've already budgeted it, maybe borrowed some money from your neighbor or your bank. And so when the money comes in, you pay off expenses. And the sad thing is that even if there's anything left, we always go out there and we buy the wrong things because we want to keep up appearances. We want to live like the Joneses that we are not. But long and short of it is that that money goes finished, and then we have to go back to our job. We do the same thing over and over. For the middle income, that's most of us, we still rely on our job mentality or however we get our income. We would use most of it. And when we go, we spend most of it to pay for our living expenses or for our lifestyle. What is normally left, unfortunately, we spend most of that in the area of liabilities. Either you go get yourself a nice jet, you get yourself a nice car, you get your credit cards for those of us that can just swipe and swipe and swipe. You buy yourself like a nice big house somewhere. But bottom line is that all of this money is based on what I call active income. As the income is coming in, it's being spent. Then it goes and we have to go and repeat the cycle over and over, and that's something we call a rat race. ONPASSIVE is giving us a blessed opportunity where we can break away from the rat race. And here, what's happening is that the wealthy, and this is the mindset we need to get, is that when they do not get their income from their jobs, we're gonna be getting our income from our asset. The most important asset we have right now is our ONPASSIVE account. Now, what's going to happen is that from that ONPASSIVE account, we are going to generate some income from that. And then that income is going to be used for our expenses. So we get from our ONPASSIVE, we generate some income. Yes, we will have expenses. We're going to get those expenses. We may be able to afford to, spend some on some liabilities. We have been told to upgrade our dreams. So yes, you can permit yourself to get that big car, that big house. Don't go crazy. But then the main thing is that let's leave some more of it to come back here and buy some more assets, which would in turn generate more and more income that we can then use to build assets. And you can see this is like saying a continuous cycle building. So the ideas that I'm trying to share here is that when assets generate assets, we create wealth. And I want each and every one of us to think of the income that we'll be getting from ONPASSIVE as if it will end someday. Maybe 5 years, maybe 10 years, maybe 1 year. Just mindset, prepare yourself that this income is going to end. And whatever we are getting now, let's use it to generate our own mini ONPASSIVEs. Let's use it to generate more wealth so that we can create generational income. And that way it will lead us to be able to go out there and do the things that we are dreaming of doing for our communities and for our family. Again, what I'm trying to say here is this: the rich people, that's the secrets of the millionaire mind again coming. The way they see every dollar or penny or naira that we're going to be getting is they're seeing it as a seed. And that seed, what we need to do is to take those seeds and plant them so that they can generate more seeds. And then we take those again and replant them. That way, you can literally be living off what ONPASSIVE is, not what ONPASSIVE is giving us, but of what those seeds are generating as a bigger income. Just imagine if each and every one of us who is a founder goes out there with this mindset, takes whatever comes from ONPASSIVE and multiplies it 1,000-fold. Then we will start to realize some of the dreams that our CEO is talking about of alleviating poverty, stopping all the quarrels and fights and so on. But I'm going to end by saying something here. We're not going to succeed going by ourselves. We need to think bigger. We need to think more than just me. We need to be thinking us. What I mean is this. Let's say Pastor Paul has a list of his projects that he would love to support in ONPASSIVE or with the funds from ONPASSIVE. Sister Aisha has her own projects. Sister Mary has her own projects. The three of them choose to work together. Our natural human instinct will be, let me get my projects done first. And this is one of the problems that especially those of us from the African continent, we are struggling with, to be able to really promote this ONPASSIVE dream, in the sense that we are still going in either with some selfish mindset or trying to go in and say, it was my project, so I'm the hero. What my proposal is that as we look at it from a mindset, if we choose to work together, I don't mind if somebody has their projects, they want to do it by themselves. But if we choose to work together, let us think based on the need. If these three people that I just shared as an example, they figure out that Sister Aisha's community projects are the ones that are of the greatest need, as a team, we work on those ones, and then we can transfer ourselves to work on the next project and the next one. Because if we have this abundance mindset and we're able to plant the seeds of ONPASSIVE to go 1,000-fold, then every single problem will be solved and there will be no need for us to be competing. I thought I should end by saying this because I see that it's a struggle that we as a people are going to face if we don't actually put this elephant in the room right out there for everybody to see. I'm going to pause here and thank you for listening. I don't know if we have questions, but if so, then we can talk about them or we can attempt to address them.
Wow. Thank you very much, Dr. John. for making us understanding how to personally manage our finance by budgeting and investing. Thank you very much, sir, for that and for taking us through the basic financial literacy on how we can manage our fund. As you said, definitely we're going to be earning from somewhere and we're going to spend our money, we're going to save, invest, and protect what we're getting. Thank you very much, sir. Pastor 360, do you have any question for Dr. John?
Not at all, not at all. I don't have questions.
Okay.
Mary, how about you?
I don't have any question for him because I know he's an expert when it comes to financial readiness.
I almost forgot myself while listening to Dr. John because the way he was explaining, I'm just enjoying myself.
I like listening to Dr. John at any time, over and over and over, because he will tell you how to manage it. Can you imagine what he just said now? That people should not just dumple into spending the money as it comes. You have to plan first. Think of what you have to do with the money first. Otherwise, mentality of people, once money comes, let's spend, buy this, buy that. No, but he's telling us, no, that's not the option. Just like the scenario he painted when he started. A man that won lottery and he started spending, buying all this and buying. At the end of it, what happened? He lost it all. So this is a very good advice from him. We should plan. Plan first before we start spending. And above all, the apple, we are sure that it will come. How ready are we? How ready are we? So that the money will not make us go a wire, So I really appreciate you, sir. Thank you very much because you have given us another advice on how to manage our finances when it comes. God bless you, sir. I appreciate you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you very much.
Okay, Madam Aisha, so like I said, I don't have questions because everything is so beautiful, but I just want to remind you and Minister of Finance of the conclusive part of Dr. John's presentation. He says that all of you should not be concerned about your own self, but you have to make sure that every project in Pastor Paul's community and everywhere must be finished. We must complete my own project in my community everywhere first before you think of your own. That is one thing I have picked from the conclusion.
I heard him also while he was saying we need to help each other in completing each of the projects everybody have in the own community. So by the time we are done with you, then you will come back to Mary, then from Mary to me, then we'll go around so that we'll be able to help others.
I'm happy with that advice too, because it's telling us to collaborate, to join together, synergy, so that we'll be able to help each other, in our own community, to live humanity
within ourselves. Yes. Thank you very much, Dr. John. While you are explaining the aspect of protection, I know you briefly go into the insurance part, but you don't want to go deep into it. When you talk of the protection, I think that's when the insurance part come up, right?
Yes. So I mentioned it because me and you had that discussion, and I really, especially for the people that are listening in Nigeria, as I said, you're lucky that you guys actually have setups, and I know Sister Aisha, that's an area that you also get involved in. When I was making this presentation initially, I tried very much not to talk about insurance because I am licensed in America. I know the products in the US, and I know that unfortunately, each and every one of us, whether we like it or not, for some crazy reasons, all the major companies that would provide some of the excellent products have excluded Africa. So they have countries A, B, C, and every single African country is listed as D, which means somebody from Africa cannot get some of the American products. So I was kind of happy when I heard that in Nigeria, and Sister Aisha was mentioning that there are some products that are there. And one thing I want to talk about, again, just quickly explain, when they said life insurance, as somebody who's been practicing in the field, whenever I talk to any of our African people, and I want to, again, I'm being very transparent here, the African men are worse when it comes to this, either because we are just, I don't know what's wrong with us, but whenever they talk about life insurance, for example, somebody just say, Master, somebody told you I'm going to die. Why are you trying to wish me bad luck? But we don't understand that there are different versions. There is obviously the one that is there to provide for your family if you're not there. And there is also the version that is there, which would build a lot of cash for you. And that cash, you can actually almost get 3 times the amount you put in. But even on top of the ones that, even if we think about taking the ones that people are going to pass away, let me just share a story. I'm reading a book, What Would the Rockefellers Do? And we now need to start thinking about those, because what the story goes is that in those days of the gold rush, the Rockefeller took most of his money and he put it in a life insurance policy. And that policy was designed that when he passes away, the money will not go to any one of his children or any one of his dependents, because they figured out that if they distribute the money to the family, the money will be gone within the second, third generation. So they went ahead and they created a trust and said, if I pass away, I want every penny of the life insurance, hundreds of millions of dollars, to go inside that life insurance controlled by the trust. And let every single family member of mine who wants to start a business, who wants to start some venture, have access to come borrow money from that trust. Don't give them for free. You may give them at almost very small interest, but let them be able to pay that money. You can relax the terms so that their business will be able to sustain itself, but over time they should pay that money. It goes back into that trust. What that does is that that trust continues to grow. Those family members have had literally capital that banks would not normally give them, and they go set themselves up and they become wealthy. And then the next generation comes in, they already inherit a successful business from Papa, but they want to expand it. They don't have enough capital. They go back to that trust and they borrow some more money to expand that business. So what I'm saying is, we need to start copying some of these ideas. And there are financial institutions out there which would allow us, if each and every one of you back there is able to take your money from ONPASSIVE and even get like a 100 or 200 million naira life insurance policy, I would say go for it. Why? Because you instantly create an estate for your family or for a charity or for whatever you're thinking of, for about that 200 million naira. And you probably would not even pay up to $1 million for it anyway. God forbid something happens to you soon. Now that's a legacy that you've left for that organization. If you live long and it is one of the policies that actually generates cash, there is cash there that you can use, and the residual will still go to some of those the beneficiaries. So as we learn, and now that I know that Nigeria especially has this type of infrastructures, and as I said, our sister Aisha happens to be working with one of such companies, Those are some of the things that we need to be reaching out and trying to create for ourselves. Get a good attorney or a good lawyer to structure a trust for you so that the money is in control. The way that somebody explained it to us at the training is you want to be in control of your money while you are alive and even beyond the grave, because Rockefeller basically wrote about 37 rules on how that his monies are going to be managed over 100 years ago. And those are basically still being used to manage. And that's why if you look in the history of the United States, I think the Rockefeller family, they probably have the most millionaires or billionaires because they set up something right. And that's why I'm saying there that let us think of ONPASSIVE money as a seed. Let us think of ONPASSIVE money as if it's going to end someday. And when we take it, we should ask ourselves, if I get ONPASSIVE money for the next 5 years and year 6 it stops, how am I going to make sure that my generations are financially sufficient and independent or free forever? Those are some of the things that we need to be thinking.
Thank you very much, Dr. John. I know we didn't have enough of you. Maybe next time we're going to invite you to come back and explain more to our viewers. Thank you, our viewers. Definitely ONPASSIVE will give us the financial freedom. And how ready are you to embrace this money when the money coming? So that's why Dr. John is here to prepare our mind towards how we're going to manage those funds. Thank you very much once again. Thank you, our viewers. Thank you for always being here with us. We appreciate your attention always. We have come to the end of this program. Thank you very much. Bye-bye to everyone.
Thank you very much and have a good evening.
Bye. Thank you.